Ros Nielsen, who's...
Good evening, everyone.
Ros, you know the rules by now, don't you?
Yes, I do. And
Fantastic.
that wasn't me creaking it.
No.
It was the microphone.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks to all of you for the opportunity to speak to the report for information in item 16.2, the Jamberoo Community Traffic Survey, which was tabled on behalf of JVRRA, the Ratepayers Association, by Councillors Warren and Larkins. Thanks for that. And also thanks to the Director of Infrastructure and Operations for reporting that his staff are currently reviewing the survey and will respond directly back to us. Now, JVRRA ran this survey following discussions at our meetings that kept cropping up over several years, in which our members raised concerns about issues related to our roads and how we travel around in our community. The Jamberoo community responded very strongly to the chance to express their views in this survey. We got 211 responses in our little community. And the report that we've provided is long and detailed, I'm afraid. We hope you will read at least the executive summary and the conclusions and recommendations. The data is now 6 months old, and the survey preceded the spike in the use of e-bikes. But apart from that, we're confident that the information about community views that we've provided is relevant and well-grounded. We will be hoping that several of the specific outcomes of the survey will be discussed by the Council's local transport forum, including traffic calming and other safety suggestions for specific spots within the village. We'll also be contacting the Department of Transport and Lake Illawarra Area Police about issues that are not within Council's remit, such as speed limits. For now, though, we would like to highlight for you two quite difficult strategic issues for which we would really appreciate continued advocacy from the councillors as well as council staff. Two issues. One of the most consistent and strongest concerns expressed in the survey was the connection of the shared pathway or cycleway between Browns Lane and Jamberoo Village. We have been told that it's on Council's radar to be attended to at some stage in the future, but I haven't been able to find it in the current draft operational plan. It might be there, I might be wrong there. The connection of this shared pathway is not to be regarded as merely a good idea for a tourism boost, although it certainly is that. As you will see in our survey report, for our residents it's primarily a safety issue, affecting motorists as well as cyclists and walkers. Advocacy must include both efforts to secure grant funding, and we know that's difficult, and the design of the route, which is probably even more difficult, including carrying out the required negotiations with landholders. The point I'd like to make here is that progress on this issue is urgent in terms of risk and safety management. Please don't let it get kicked down the road because it's difficult. The second concern I'd like to mention to you relates to the infrastructure that, according to our local housing strategy, ideally precedes housing growth. In particular, most of us remember the rather convoluted progress, I chose that word carefully, of the approval of the DA for Golden Valley Stage 1 subdivision. One concern of the community that never got resolved during this process involved traffic and pedestrian safety, including the problems associated with having only one access road to the subdivision, a small access road onto the small Golden Valley Road and then onto Lowry Street. The dangers and possible solutions were mentioned by respondents at several points in our survey, with issues affecting motorists and pedestrians who will be living in the subdivision, the future people, and current residents in adjacent streets. The possibility that a second access point for this subdivision might possibly be divided by the developer if stage 2 ever goes ahead is not adequate for now. Councillors, we will appreciate your advocacy in terms of how this aspect of infrastructure planning for our village can be foregrounded and expedited. Well, the Jamberoo community has put a lot of effort into collecting the data. The people who wrote out the survey forms put in a lot of comments. There was a lot of effort put into it, and we've tried hard to summarise what's useful data for you. We hope we will be listened to, and thanks for your time and support.
Thanks so much, Rose. Councillors, we've got Councillor Larkins.
Yeah. Thank you for the presentation. Look, the question that I do have is about the speed limits that obviously came up quite a bit in the survey as well, the speed across the town and entering into it. Do you mind just giving a little bit more detail about that feedback? I know it is primarily a state that will control the speed limit, but certainly council and councillors can advocate for change in relation to that.
Right.
So I just hoping for just a little bit more information or background that came from the survey.
The two issues that achieved consensus to a large extent within the survey, and of course people have varying reasons, were the Browns Road connection and people being absolutely furious about the reduction in the speed limit between Albion Park and Jamberoo. There were a few people who live along the road who quite like it, and the word ridiculous cropped up as the most common term amongst 80% of the respondents. A lot of them, although we didn't ask this, a lot of them mentioned maybe they'd accept a compromise of 70 kilometres an hour. That seems to be what people find it fairly easy, especially going down the long straight stretch. You've got to brake frantically to keep to 60, but 70 is doable there. People were disappointed at the lack of consultation, and people are very angry now that it really does seem to be used as a revenue raiser. There's always a big fuss on Facebook when a police car is spotted hiding beneath a jacaranda tree down at the bottom of the straight stretch. We feel that it's unreasonable. It fed into other issues. For example, the rural roads. I haven't mentioned that there, but the speed limits on all the rural roads, and Jamberoo is situated in the middle of several very environmentally sensitive rural roads. The speed limits on the roads is completely inconsistent. I live on Minamara Lane, where the speed limit is 100 kilometres per hour. It's never marked. It's not consistent, and there are no warning signs to protect wildlife between dusk and dawn. Given that much attention was given to the road between Albion Park and Jamberoo, we feel that someone just wasn't looking at the whole picture. We need a really holistic approach to what happens with our traffic, but people were not happy about that. There were, within the village, the community was fairly divided about whether the limit should be dropped down to 40 or not. A lot of people said you can't go any faster than 40 anyway. The people who most strongly wanted the speed limit to be lowered were the people who live along the main thoroughfare, Lowry Street through to Churchill Street. So if we divided up the respondents according to where they lived, and the main thoroughfare people were very happy for it to go down to 40, and others felt, well, sort of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So.
Thanks, Rose. Councillor Larkins, will you still...
Sorry, no, just... You already touched on it about because obviously Kiama and Gerringong have their main streets as 40, and Jamberoo is still 50 for Lowry and Churchill Street, and you've obviously touched on the fact that view is quite mixed in terms of the advocating for a 40 kilometre for Lowry and Churchill.
mixed, and the other degree of mix, and of course you ask a whole lot of people a whole lot of questions, you'll get a whole lot of opinions, but the people in the side streets, so just as concerned about traffic, those are side streets with no footpaths, and so everyone walks in the middle of the road and parks their boats and caravans on the sides of the road, and those adjacent streets near the Golden Valley Road subdivision are going to take a big hiding as people use them as a rat race to get around. They need pedestrian safety issues. I mean, it's not safe to push a pram along those roads.
Thanks, Ros. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Ros, for that presentation. I was interested in this survey too, as I've heard some disgruntled Jamberoo residents about the speed limit between Jamberoo and Albion Park. I suppose my question is, and you raised this slightly, was whether the JVRRA were consulted during that process. And
there was
did
no
you know why
consultation at all. We had no idea that it was coming.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ros. Thanks for coming in. Okay, we'll move on to the final speaker.